I'm now the ranking member of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee after spending 4 years as the chair of the Aviation Subcommittee. And I can tell you the committee is ready to get to work. We have a long history of bipartisan legislating on the committee. And Sam Graves, who's the chair of the committee from Missouri, I've known for a long time. We actually were elected together in 2000. I think there's 4 of us left in that class in the entire House of Representatives. We've served on the Armed Services Committee and the Transportation Committee the entire time together. So we have a great working relationship, and we want to do a lot of bipartisan work in the committee, and we have chances to do that on the FAA reauthorization bill. And I just talked with the state aviation officials just a few moments ago in another building. The U.S. Coast Guard reauthorization bill we're going to work on, Water Resources Development Act we're going to work on, and pipeline safety as well. And there'll probably be some opportunities given events in the news around rail safety that we may be addressing as well. So I know that a lot of you want to see us work in a bipartisan manner. You want to see things delivered on time, including the FAA bill. It's a goal that we share. As I noted, when I talked to the aviation officials who committed me to getting the bill done on time, I said, I can assure you in the House of Representatives, we'll get it done in plenty of time. We'll get it done in plenty of time, but I don't work in the Senate, and I'm sure Tom Carper made the commitment that they're going to get all their stuff done on time as well. Perhaps not. But you know, last Congress was one of the most productive we had in a long, long time. We passed multiple rounds of COVID relief that kept transit workers on the job. It allowed essential workers to get to their jobs. It kept supply chains moving as much as we could keep them moving. Also showed the faults in our supply chain. We passed the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS and Science Act, keep the economy moving and build a foundation for the future to keep the U.S. globally competitive in the future. And of course, we passed the bipartisan infrastructure law. Now, the BIL is not a set it and forget it law. We've been through a little over a year of implementation. We've got about 4 years of implementation left. There's a lot of money left to go out the door. There's a lot of decisions yet to be made about those dollars as well. So BIL oversight and implementation is one of my top priorities. So we need the follow through. We need the follow through from Congress. We need the follow through from state DOTs, from US DOT, from our cities, from our counties, from our transit agencies, our ports, our airports, and many other partners to deliver these projects in our communities to get the maximum bang for the buck of these dollars. So one of the priorities I'm working on is to ensure our committee members and the T&I committee have the opportunity to highlight these transportation investments in their districts and these projects in their local communities. Now, members of Congress can play an important role in directing transportation stakeholders in their communities to the right resources from the BIL and advocate for these policies and these programs for their districts in the future. So I would, first off, encourage all of you to regularly update your congressional delegations on what you are doing with BIL implementation. I've talked to Roger about this, about the problem that state DOTs, and this is not an insult, but I would do it too, state DOTs and the legislatures taking the federal money, painting it with state money and calling it their own and then taking credit for it. I want to tell you, if you want another 5 years, 4 years from now, another 5-year bill, you need to ensure your congressional delegations are involved right now in showing that those dollars are getting implemented in their districts and create the incentive to get another bill 5 years, 4 years from now to build another bill, BIL. And so it's going to be very important that we work together on implementation so that members of Congress can see the projects getting built, see that money getting spent, and being part of the success of those projects. It'll make Congress's life easier when we start putting together the next version of this bill in only a couple of years. Highway formula funds, obviously a substantial part of this bill. In my state, I know that Marco Elias, our state senator, and Jake Fye, our state house leader on transportation, the bill, the Move Forward bill they put together was funded 21%. 21% of it was funded over the next 5 years by the formula dollars that came out of the BIL. So we're working to implement these dollars, put them to work every day. It's that kind of coordination that's going to be necessary to make this implementation work. And again, to build the foundation for the next time we do it. Progress to date is pretty good, I'd have to say. In fiscal year 2020, states launched 29,000 projects with federal highway formula funds. In the first year alone, the administration announced funding for 6,900 projects under competitive grants to more than 4,000 communities nationwide. In the last few months, the administration announced, as an example, more than $1.6 billion for one project alone. That was the Brent Spence Bridge project that spans Kentucky and Ohio, a bridge I had nothing to do with funding, but I've been hearing about it for the last 22 years of my time in Congress. So for those from Kentucky and Ohio, congratulations, and you're welcome. We also see nearly $300 million investment in the Gateway program, a set of transit and rail projects that will modernize infrastructure in the most densely populated part of our country. But it's not just these large projects that are getting funded through the BIL. Earlier this year, the DOT announced funding for more than 500 safe street grants. Most of these are small grants in the world of transportation, a few $100,000 in most cases. But in my district, the Whatcom County Council of Governments, Whatcom County, I know there's one person who knows where Whatcom County is. Anyone else know where Whatcom County is? Oh, 2, great, 3, 4, 5, great. Oh, hey, Allison does it. Yeah, good, hey, Allison. So Whatcom County is a county on the border with Canada, and even they got $200,000 to create a comprehensive safety action plan. Dollars that they needed to do this safety action plan. So you're not likely to read that on the front page of the New York Times or the Washington Post, but you will read it on the front page of the Bellingham Herald, and maybe the Northern Light, and maybe the Linden Tribune. And I think that's important because that's where members live. We don't live in the big papers, we live in the small papers around the country. So a project like that, though, can help reduce death tolls on roadways, on highways, on county roads, in these smaller communities. But we have a lot of work to do, and states are some of the most important stakeholders in determining the success of the BIL. And the law provides $351 billion for highway programs, and 90% of highway trust fund dollars go to the states via a formula. So I know you take all of this seriously, very seriously. For decades, our surface transportation system has given us unprecedented mobility and freedom, powering the economy and connecting our country and, frankly, our world. But we have to acknowledge some downsides as well. The neighborhoods, often low-income and communities of color that were torn down or cut in half to make way for highways, or those who are disproportionately impacted by the effects of smog or other pollution. The hours that we spend in traffic congestion, burning gas and wasting time that we could spend at work, or more importantly, with our families. The congestion that does not ease up even when we build lane after lane. And transportation, more specifically cars and light-duty trucks, are the leading cause of carbon pollution in the U.S. But we can't solve these challenges overnight. That's why, the challenge to all of us is to find creative solutions to build a transportation system for the future. We have one that has a foundation in the 1950s. We need one that is built for the 2050s, that recognizes the changing nature of transportation, the changing nature of mobility. And states can lead the way to make sure that our transportation systems are truly accessible and safe for everyone, including those with differing abilities, for those who live in rural or sparsely populated areas, for those without a car, for those with a car. But we have to think more creatively over the next several years to make this happen. You can be a big part of that solution. That doesn't mean trying to replicate the New York City subway system in Montana or in Linden, Washington. That's not what I'm saying. But it might mean looking at local bus service using smaller vehicles like Island Transit in my district is doing. It might mean rebuilding Main Street to have better sidewalks and traffic signals so shoppers can drive there but park their car between errands. It might mean an express bus service from the suburbs to the town center, like you see a lot of projects taking place right now throughout the country. It doesn't have to mean, I know this might be slightly controversial given the memo everyone's all bent out of shape about, but it might not mean highway expansion, but it might mean highway expansion. In fact, spending on highway expansions by state DOT went up in the year after that memo that a lot of people didn't like. After the memo went out, highway expansion money went up from $8.1 billion in 2021 to $10.2 billion in 2022. So clearly the memo had zero impact on highway expansion. That said, for those concerned about whether the Biden administration itself wouldn't award funds for highway expansions that also did not come to pass. Using FY22 funds under infra, mega, and rural grant programs, the administration awarded $1.35 billion to highway expansion projects. I'm not here to defend highway expansion or not defend highway expansion. These are just some of the facts that exist out there, and you will have to consider them as or not. It's America. It's a great thing. You can do what you want. I just think it's important to reiterate, there's just no threat to state flexibility to pick or build projects that you're choosing. But it is incumbent on state DOTs and on Congress and on the administration and our partners in the transportation space to recognize and begin to confront the challenges created by our transportation choices to date. That's okay. In fact, that's our job. And I think AASHTO and its members can make a real difference here. And I look forward to working with you on that. So as ranking member, I want to continue to work with you and to learn from you and to better support your efforts to build a better, safer, cleaner, and more accessible transportation system for our country. State by state, county by county, city by city, transit bus by transit bus, road by road, sidewalk by sidewalk, pedestrian facility, bike facility, by bike facility, broadband by broadband, you get the picture. So we have a lot of infrastructure needs in our country. We have to work together to make them come to fruition. So I look forward to working with you to build better communities and better quality of life for the people that we all have the privilege to represent. And with that, I want to thank you all very much for the invitation and hopefully see you in Seattle. Thanks a lot.